The funeral oration of Pericles Thucydides. Thucydides, 460 to 395 BC, is generally taken as one of the first true historians. Unlike his predecessor Herodotus, known as the father of history, who absorbed myths and the gods in his writing, Thucydides loved consulting written documents and conducting necessary interviews. He gathered available evidence and decided what he thought was the truth. It is fair to say that he created the first scientific approach to history. What sets him apart from other historians is that he took a rational approach, recognizing that human nature was the basic cause of historical events. He offered penetrating analysis in an effort to raise the alarm for future generations. History should not repeat itself. As Thucydides put it, "My history is an everlasting possession, not a prized composition which is heard and forgotten." When reading the oration by Pericles, we need to keep in mind that Pericles left no writing of his own. It was Thucydides who recorded the historical moment in his book History of the Peloponnesian War. In the year 431 BC, a war known as the Peloponnesian War broke out primarily between Athens and Sparta. Pericles, the great Athenian leader and orator at the time, made this speech at a funeral ceremony in honor of the lost lives after the first year of the campaign. This funeral oration was delivered to justify the loss and boost the morale of all Athenians. Its significance in cultural terms, however, went far beyond that. By making contrasts with Athens' rival, the Spartans, Pericles took the opportunity to highlight the ideals, values, and virtues of the Athenians, which constitute the enduring themes and spirit in Western culture. Pericles, 495 to 429 BC, ruled at a time when Athens had just adopted a democratic system in which all citizens were entitled to vote and hold office. He brought Athens to its height from 461 to 379 BC, sometimes referred to as the Age of Pericles. He contributed enormously to fostering the power of democracy by placing the state in the hands of whole body of citizens under the rule of law. For around 30 years as an elected general, Pericles had fulfilled his ambition to make Athens the queen of Hellas. Of all cities, Athens alone is ever greater than her fame. Despite its highly idealized nature, this funeral oration serves as a perfect sample to look into the mindset that is essentially Western. Let me say that our system of government does not copy the institutions of our neighbors. It is more the case of our being a model to others than of our imitating anyone else. Our Constitution is called a democracy because power is in the hands not of a minority, but of the whole people. When it is a question of settling private disputes, everyone is equal before the law. When it is a question of putting one person before another in positions of public responsibility, what counts is not membership of a particular class, but the actual ability which the man possesses. No one, so long as he has it in him to be of service to the state, is kept in political obscurity because of poverty. And just as our political life is free and open, So is our day-to-day life in our relations with each other. We do not get into a state with our next-door neighbor if he enjoys himself in his own way, nor do we give him the kind of black looks which, though they do no real harm, still do hurt people's feelings. We are free and tolerant in our private lives, but in public affairs we keep to the law. This is because it commands our deep respect. We give our obedience to those whom we put in positions of authority, and we obey the laws themselves, especially those which are for the protection of the oppressed, and those unwritten laws which it is an acknowledged shame to break. And here is another point. When our work is over, we are in a position to enjoy all kinds of recreation for our spirits. There are various kinds of contests in poetry, drama, music, and athletics, and sacrifices regularly throughout the year. In our homes, we find a beauty and a good taste which delight us every day, and which drive away our cares. Then the greatness of our city brings it about that all the good things from all over the world flow in to us, so that to us it seems just as natural to enjoy foreign goods as our own local products. Then there is a great difference between us and our opponents in our attitude towards military security. Here are some examples. Our city is open to the world, and we have no periodical depurations in order to prevent people observing or finding our secrets, which might be of military advantage to the enemy. This is because we rely not on secret weapons, but on our own real courage and loyalty. There is a difference too in our educational systems. The Spartans, from their earliest boyhood, are submitted to the most laborious training in courage. We pass our lives without all these restrictions, and yet are just as ready to face the same dangers as they are. Here is a proof of this. When the Spartans invade our land, they do not come by themselves, but bring all their allies with them, whereas we, when we launch an attack abroad, do the job by ourselves. And, though fighting on foreign soil, do not often fail to defeat opponents who are fighting for their own hearth and homes. As a matter of fact, none of our enemies has ever yet been confronted with our total strength, because we have to divide our attention between our navy and the many missions on which our troops are sent on land. Yet, if our enemies engage a detachment of our forces and defeat it, they give themselves credit for having thrown back our entire army. Or, if they lose, they claim that they were beaten by us in full strength. There are certain advantages, I think, in our way of meeting danger voluntarily with an easy mind, instead of with a laborious training, with natural rather than with state-induced courage. We do not have to spend our time practicing to meet sufferings, which are still in the future, and when they are actually upon us, we show ourselves just as brave as these others, who are always in strict training. This is one point in which I think our city deserves to be admired. There are also others. Our love of what's beautiful does not lead to extravagance. Our love of the things of the mind does not make us soft. We regard wealth as something to be properly used rather than as something to boast about. As for poverty, No one need be ashamed to admit it. The real shame is in not taking practical measures to escape from it. Here each individual is interested not only in his own affairs, but in the affairs of the state as well. Even those who are mostly occupied with their own business are extremely well informed on general politics. This is a peculiarity of ours. We do not say that a man who takes no interest in politics is a man who minds his own business. We say that he has no business here at all. We Athenians in person take our decisions on policy or submit them to proper discussions, for we do not think that there is an incompatibility between words and deeds. The worst thing is to rush into action before the consequences have been properly debated. And this is another point where we differ from other people. We are capable at the same time of taking risks and estimating them beforehand. Others are brave out of ignorance, and when they stop to think, they begin to fear. But the man who can most truly be accounted brave is he who best knows the meaning of what is sweet in life and of what is terrible, and then goes out undeterred to meet what is going to come. Again, in questions of general good feelings, there is a great contrast between us and most other people. We make friends by doing good to others, not by receiving good from them. This makes our friendship all the more reliable, since we want to keep alive the gratitude of those who are in our debt by showing continued goodwill to them, whereas the feelings of one who owes us something lack the same enthusiasm, since he knows that when he repays our kindness, it will be more like paying back a debt than giving something spontaneously. We are unique in this. When we do kindness to others, we do not do them out of any calculations of profit or loss. We do them without afterthought, relying on our free liberality. Taking everything together then, I declare that our city is an education to Greece, and I declare that in my opinion, each single one of our citizens, in all the manifold aspects of life, is able to show himself the rightful lord and owner of his own person, and do this, moreover, with exceptional grace and exceptional versatility, and to show that this is no empty boasting for the present occasion, but real tangible fact. You have only to consider the power which our city possesses and which has been won by those very qualities which I have mentioned. Athens, alone of the states we know, comes to her testing time in a greatness that surpasses what was imagined of her. In her case, and in her case alone, no invading enemy is ashamed at being defeated, and no subject can complain of being governed by people unfit for their responsibilities. Mighty, indeed, are the marks and monuments of our empire, which we have left. Future ages will wonder at us, as the present age wonders at us now. Questions on the content. According to Pericles, what are the chief characteristics of a democratic form of government? 2. In what respects are Athenians different from Spartans? 3. What are the attitudes of Athenians to such things as wealth, learning, and public affairs? 4. How does Pericles argue for the Athenian way of policy making? 5. What is Pericles' definition of Athenian courage? 6. In what ways does Pericles portray the Athenian generosity? 7. Why does Pericles claim that Athens is an education to Greece, or the school of Hellas?